Two people walk into a bar. One of them is a vegan. How do you know which one? Well, chances are they're going to tell you. And what I'm here to tell you today is that eating a plant based diet will not only have good health benefits, but will also help mitigate climate change. Whenever I mention choosing to eat a plant based diet to people that I meet, they always have something to say. Two things I hear most often are, I could never give up meat, or where do you get your protein? And it turns out there's actually quite a few places I get my protein, and I'm here to talk about how I can help you choose to eat a plant based diet and how I get my daily protein intake. I bet you didn't know that animal products are the largest contributor to greenhouse gases. According to the Environmental Working Group, the production, processing, and distribution of meat requires huge outlays of pesticides, fertilizer, fuel, feed, and water, while releasing greenhouse gases, manure, and a range of toxic chemicals into our air and our water. Eating locally sourced vegetables and meats can help reduce your carbon footprint. And what does this mean exactly, eating locally sourced vegetables and meats? Well, if your town or city has a local farmer market, this is the ideal place to source your fruits and veggies. Not only are you supporting local farms and businesses, but the distance at which this produce has to travel is much shorter than, let's say, if you were to go to the grocery store and get produce from Mexico or even somewhere else in the country. It could be a completely different state that's not close by. And the fuel that's required to transport those products helps contribute to those greenhouse gases and those emissions. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is that support those local businesses. And in addition to choosing to eat from local businesses, eating fewer animal products can also help reduce your carbon footprint. Manure from these animals is responsible for 30% of agricultural greenhouse emissions. You can reduce your impact by choosing to cut out or reduce animal and meat products. But what does eating a plant based diet even mean? Where do you start? And I'll be honest, it's pretty intimidating. When I first got started, I didn't know where to look. Obviously, I looked online, but there's so many options out there. There's so much information. There's books, articles, different diet plans. There's Pinterest. I ended up getting onto Amazon and looking up plant based diet books. I found a book that worked for me. And when the book came, I looked through it and sifted through the different recipes and found the easiest ones that I felt comfortable starting out with. And that helped expand my knowledge of how to eat a plant based diet significantly. Eating a plant based diet means that you want to focus on eating whole, fresh, and minimally processed ingredients, specifically plants. I get this question a lot. What does whole foods mean? And I'm not talking about the grocery store. Whole foods are foods that have been refined and processed as little as possible without additives and artificial substitutes. They're as close to their natural form as they can possibly get. Examples of whole foods are grains, nuts and seeds, and of course, fruits and vegetables. Now, you've learned how eating less meat and less animal products can reduce your carbon footprint, but what about conserving water? Well, eating a plant based diet can also help conserve water. Did you know that it takes approximately 1,000 gallons of water to produce 1 gallon of milk? That's a lot of water, and it also requires 100 times more water to produce a pound of animal protein than it does to produce grain protein. And you might be wondering what all this means. How is water used in the production of animal products and meats? Well, it's not just the production of meat after the animal has been slaughtered, but it's the care and the feeding that takes place while raising the cattle, poultry, and pork. The cultivation of field crops that feed these animals require large amounts of water, fertilizers, fuel that power the farm machinery, and so forth, and all of that really adds up. So, you've decided that you want to cut back on your animal protein intake, right? What substitutes can you use to meet your daily protein goals? Some foods that you can look into to start out are lentils, chickpeas, tofu and edamame, peanuts and almonds, chia seeds, etc. Cooked lentils actually pack 8.84 grams of protein in 1/2 cup, and they also contain fiber, iron, and potassium. Beans and rice separately are incomplete protein sources, but when eaten together, they can actually yield 7 grams of protein per cup. And this might not really sound appetizing, cooked lentils, beans, and rice, but if you find a book that works for you, that you're interested in, it's pretty amazing some of the ways that these foods can be transformed. One of my favorite recipes of all time is General Tso's cauliflower. It's comforting and delicious, just like the original recipe that includes meat, but it's healthy and environmentally conscious at the same time. So, you've realized how you can help mitigate climate change and reduce your carbon footprint, but how can eating plant based be beneficial for your health? Adopting a variation of a plant based diet could greatly decrease common health risks as well as reduce greenhouse emissions. You can lower your risk of heart disease, lower your blood pressure, lower the bad cholesterol, reduce your risk of diabetes, and it can also help you maintain a healthy weight. Plant-based plant-based diets are also rich in fiber, vitamins, and minerals. If there's health conditions that run in your family that you're concerned about, that I mentioned previously, this may be something that you can implement to help mitigate your risks. Of course, I'm not a medical professional, so make sure to consult your primary care physician before you make any drastic health changes and dietary changes. While it might be hard to give up that steak or those chicken nuggets from Chick fil A, greatly reducing the amount of meat and animal products that we consume will not only benefit our lives in terms of longevity, but also can reduce greenhouse gases and conserve vital resources such as water. And we've learned that protein sources are not limited to animal products. We can also get just as much protein from cooked lentils. Making small and simple dietary changes will not only help prevent health risks, but can also benefit the health of our planet. We must not only think of ourselves, but of our children and future generations.